तदेकं स्मरास्तदेकं भजामः तदेकं जगत्साक्षिरूपं नमामः सदेकं निधानं निरालम्बमीशं भवाम्भोधिपोतं शरण्यं व्रजामः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. On that alone do we meditate. That alone do we worship. To that alone, the witness of the universe, do we bow. To that one who is our sole eternal support, the self-existent Lord, the raft to safety across the ocean of this world, do we come for refuge. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good morning, and good pranams to Mataji, and my thanks to her for inviting me. And today, this weekend, the theme of our retreat this weekend is deepening our spiritual life. And last night we talked about really the essential ingredient in spiritual life. The essential ingredient for deepening our spiritual life is increasing our longing, increasing our interest in spiritual life, increasing our longing for God. And then we talked about prayer as a spiritual practice, not as something to get out of the way, but actually as a spiritual practice. So today, we're going to talk about, and this will probably stretch through both the sessions this morning, about deepening our meditation and the practical, some practical tips on how do we dive deeper? How do we, because Sri Ramakrishna used to encourage us to dive deep. He would say, in meditation, one must be absorbed in God. By merely floating on the surface of the water, can you reach the gems lying at the bottom of the sea? There's this idea that there are gems at the bottom of the sea. You have to dive to the very bottom of the ocean to catch those gems. And he would even say there are certain signs that you can tell meditation is being properly practiced. One of them is that a bird will sit on your head thinking that you're just a log or something. Because the mind will be so internalized, so deep that a bird will sit on your head. Well, maybe we're not getting that kind of meditation yet. No bird has sat on my head yet. So, uh, so sometimes it may seem like we're still kind of floating on the surface. How can we dive deeper? And perhaps you remember that incident in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna when Bankim Chandra, the great Bengali author, came to see Sri Ramakrishna. And after getting thoroughly scolded by Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna tells him, let me tell you something. What will you gain by floating on the surface? Dive a little under the water. The gems lie deep under the water. So what is the good of throwing your arms and legs about on the surface? A real gem is heavy. It doesn't float. It sinks to the bottom. To get the real gem, you must dive deep. And then Bankim, he's joking a little bit, but he's also says something which seems to apply to us also. He says, sir, what can we do? We are tied to a cork. It prevents us from diving. And everybody laughs when he says that. But sometimes it seems like we are tied to a cork. We're trying to dive deep, but something is keeping us near the surface. And then Sri Ramakrishna encourages him again, and he sings the song which it appears more than any other song in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. He says, all sins vanish if one only remembers God. His name breaks the fetters of death. You must dive, otherwise you can't get the gem. Listen to a song. Then he sings this song, dive deep, O mind, dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love. And perhaps some of you have heard the song. It's a Bengali song. Duba 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 roop shagore amar mon. Ore duba 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 roop shagore amar mon. Tola tola patal kunjali, tola tola patal kunjali. Pabire prem ratna dhon, pabire prem ratna dhon. Duba 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 roop shagore amar mon. So it's one of those songs addressed to the singer's own mind. Oh, my mind, dive, 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 doop, 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 dive into that infinite ocean of divine beauty. And if you can sink to the very depth, you will find that premadham, that supreme treasure of love for God, of intense love for God. That we will get. So, how to dive deeper? I'd like to we'll touch on some uh, ideas, some practical suggestions from my own experience and my study. And I need to preface this talk with this point, which is that many of us have received spiritual initiation. We received some instructions in meditation from our teachers, from our guru. Those instructions take primary place. If anything I say contradicts what you have been taught personally by your teacher, follow what your teacher says, not what I say. Um, that is important to keep in mind, because Guru's instructions are, to a certain extent, personalized and individualized. Um, when I was in India, Swami Prabodhananda came to visit, and one of the brahmacharans asked him, Maharaj, are the instructions of the Guru to be followed lifelong? Immediately replied, yes, absolutely, without any wavering. But then he added this. He said, but you can expand them. You can expand those instructions. You can add to them, as long as you're keeping to what your guru has taught you. So that is perhaps some of what we talk about today might fall into that category of just expanding our understanding, or expanding our practices a little bit. So what does it mean to dive deep? Our mind, the Patanjali points out that the human mind typically falls into 5 different states. And the first is called kshipta. It means completely restless, absolutely restless. Swami Vivekananda likens it to a monkey that has drunk liquor and then stung by a scorpion and possessed by a demon. It's a monkey already is restless, and then it has drunk the wine of desire, and it has been stung by the scorpion of jealousy, and then the demon of pride has taken hold of it. So that is this kshipta mind, this utterly restless mind. Then the second kind of mind is mudha. It means stupefied, infatuated, or very dull. A mind obsessed with one thing, perhaps, or very sleepy. We understand that one. Immersed in tamas. And then the third condition of the mind is called vikshipta. It's different from kshipta. Kshipta means completely restless. Vikshipta means distracted. It's kind of oscillating. Sometimes we get a little concentration, but then we get distracted, easily distracted. But then we pull the mind back, we concentrate. Most spiritual aspirants, our minds are mostly in this state. We're not completely restless, and hopefully most of the time we're not completely dull. We're trying to practice. We have some concentration, but it's not one-pointed. The next stage of the mind is that ekagra, that one-pointed mind, that the mind is comes to a point of a single point of focus, just like the example often given of pouring oil from one vessel to another. If you pour water from one vessel to another, it's a rough stream and it breaks up and drops. But oil is just one solid stream, like that flow of thought flowing down to our heart, one single stream of thought. This is the ekagra, the one-pointed. That's what we are aiming for. The And then there is a fifth state of mind. That's the final state, which is called niruddha. It is completely, the mind has been completely stilled, uh, completely restrained. All thoughts have stopped for a long time. There are no waves rising in the mind stuff, no vrittis, as they're called. So the challenge for us is to move from this state of the distracted state of mind to the one-pointed state of mind. Let's set aside for the time being the niruddha, the arrested state of mind. That we'll worry about that once we've attained the one-pointed state of mind. It is in this state, this one-pointed state of mind, that we begin to be able to dive deep. The mind becomes just completely filled with one thought, the thought of God. And it is in this state that the transformative spiritual experiences come. So this analogy Sri Ramakrishna gives of diving in the ocean is also very appealing, because if you think of when we dive down underwater, the ocean, or even in a swimming pool, it becomes quiet. You know, the sounds are dulled. It's silent, it's dark, you feel cut off from everything. So this idea of diving within our heart, um, all our senses suspended in vibrant silence, not a dead silence, but a vibrant silence where we're fully awake and conscious. No corks pulling us back up to the surface, cutting off all those attachments, plunging into the ocean of consciousness. And it takes place really in the heart. We fall into the heart deep within. So when thinking about how to deepen our meditation, the first thing to look at is, how do we spend the rest of our time when we're not meditating? We meditate, how long do we meditate? A half hour a day? Maybe an hour a day. Those who are fortunate to have enough time and zeal, maybe a couple of hours a day. How we live the other 22 or 23 or 23 and a half hours of the day are going to affect that hour of meditation. If we spend, say, half an hour watching the news, the daily news, and then sit for meditation, how will our meditation be? All this stuff going on in the Middle East, it's very difficult to watch. It's very upsetting. And then we want to calm our mind and dive deep. So it extends to the whole day. One of my mentors advised me before I was just going to join the monastery, and he told me, Ananda, protect your contemplation. What he meant was, be a little careful about what you put in your mind during the rest of the day, and don't fill the mind with the garbage that will trouble you. Steer clear of controversies and hot arguments that may come back. Sometimes we set if we really want to dive deep in meditation, we have to make it a priority. So that means maybe we don't have to win that argument. Maybe we just say, okay, let it be. We don't have to fight with our boss. All right, whatever you say, boss, because tonight I want to have a good meditation. So I'm not going to fight tooth and nail with my boss at work. So this is something to keep in mind when because I think all of us have had the experience of trying to meditate and getting disturbed by what has happened during the day. So when we make meditation a priority, we start to be a little more careful how we live the rest of the day. Now, Patanjali, the great compiler of the Yoga Sutras and the Eightfold Path of Yoga, outlines some disciplines for meditators at the very outset. The foundation of a meditative life, the foundation of life for one who wants to cultivate a practice of daily meditation, is ethical life, a life in harmony with the moral principles. If we tell a lie at work, if we cheat on our income taxes, these things will impact our minds. They are disharmonious actions. So we want to cultivate a harmonious mind. So even before discussing anything about meditation, the teachers of meditation, but the teachers of yoga instruct us about how to live. So this is more really about how we live during what we do during those hours when we're not meditating. Uh, a balanced life, a regulated life, an ethical life. And I don't think we'll go into them in depth today. There are 10 disciplines that are outlined, uh, the do's and don'ts, as it were, or the don'ts and do's of yoga, of the meditative life. But we'll just mention them just to remind us. Most of us have studied Raja Yoga a little or heard other classes. Mataji's been doing Raja Yoga, so you've had these in depth. So we'll just remind ourselves that the first five are this ahimsa, which is non-injuring in not only with our body but also with our speech and even with our mind. Um, And in this regard, Swami Vivekananda makes a statement that really struck me when I read it. He says, every wicked thought will rebound. So we think, well, I haven't actually hit someone. I just thought a wicked thought towards them. Even that will come back to hurt us. So something to think about. Satya, truth, truthfulness. Let the speech and the heart be one. Asteya, not stealing, not taking what is not given. Even we think, I take, go to the store and I take a candy bar or something, and don't pay for it. That's stealing. But what if our spouse's emails are open on their computer and we just have a little look? Stealing a look, it also counts as stealing. Brahmacharya, it literally means moving in Brahman. And every moment we are moving in Brahman. And of course, specifically, it also refers to restraining lust. The sexual impulse is one of the most powerful impulses in our psyches. And for monastics, of course, celibacy is called for, and for householders, at the minimum, perfect fidelity to one's spouse. So much suffering and trouble in this world is due to an inability to do this. So we're going to suffer if we are unable to do this. This is really an important part of ethical life and of cultivating a mind that is ready for meditation. Then, aparigraha. This is the fifth one, which I understand as restraining the impulse to acquire. We're constantly encouraged to acquire more things. And this aparigraha is restraining that impulse. And then the next five, the niyamas, these are the do's. Shaucha, cleanliness and purity. Santosha, cultivating contentment. We're always feeling like, well, I need something more. And this practice says, okay, it's enough. I have enough. I may not have everything I want, but I have everything I need. Santosha, tapas, doing disciplines that restrain our senses, that heating our higher nature, as it were, with putting a little intensity into our effort. Tapas, swadhyaya, self-study, study of scriptures, study of ourselves. Even repeating the mantra is sometimes said to fall under swadhyaya. And finally, Ishvara pranidhana, adding devotion to our practice, surrendering everything to the divine. So it's just, I wasn't sure whether I should even mention them because it seems like, oh my God, now there's all these 10 things I have to remember. How are we going to do this? Um, It's not so. These things all fall into place naturally when our lives are consecrated to the divine, when we are committed to living the divine life, the spiritual life, then these things naturally fall into place. So I just thought it was wise to remind ourselves about them. And then really we also can ask ourselves again the question, if we're not getting good meditation, if we feel that it's not as good as we want, we can ask ourselves, how much do we want it? Do we really want spiritual life? Do we really want it? The spiritual life envisioned for us by Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, Holy Mother. It's a unified life with all parts of it connected to our spiritual life. All parts are connected to the divine. When we're taking care of our children, we're taking care of the divine. When we're serving our parents, we are serving God. When we are working at work with our boss whom we don't like, we're working with God in another form. How much do we want the spiritual life? Are we ready to dedicate all our actions to the divine? Are we ready to do that? Then daily meditation forms the cornerstone of such a spiritual life, such a dedicated life of spirituality, where daily we drink deep at the fountain of immortality, which is flowing deep within our hearts. So the first step then, or the next step, is to form the intention. Yes, I want the spiritual life. I want to be able to meditate deeply. I know that there are gems deep within. I trust the teachings of the scriptures and the teachers, that the value of meditation is tremendous, that those gems that I have within me are far greater than any treasure that I might get in the world. Um, so then, if we can dedicate our lives, that will also help our meditation to go deeper. And those who really want to cultivate a contemplative life with a daily practice of meditation need to make it daily. Same time, as much as possible, same time, same place. When we were kids, there was on TV the Batman show. I don't know how many of you saw it, but it would usually would end in a cliffhanger, and then they would say that the narrator would say, "Tune in next time, same bat time, same bat channel." So just like that, we also want to tune in to the divine, same God time, same God channel, every day, same time. Why is it? Why do we say same time? The mind is very much a creature of habit. Actually, most of our day is ruled by habits. From how we get up in the morning, how we brush our teeth, how we fix our breakfast, how we drive to work, all these things by habit. So meditation also needs to become a habit. So if it becomes a part of our daily routine, say every morning, after I take my shower or before I take my shower or whatever it may be, the same habit, I sit for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes for my meditation. It becomes built into our day. Then it becomes easier. The mind begins to learn, oh, okay, this is the time for meditation. This is the time. It begins naturally to calm down simply because the time has come. It's the time for meditation. But that's one of the great blessings of joining a monastic order, that we're expected to go every day to the shrine. And if we don't go, someone will ask us, hey, where were you today in the shrine? You feeling all right? Everything okay? One day you miss, it's okay. If you become sick or something, but if you start missing, people will call you on it. We're all there. What are you doing? So that's a blessing. So if you happen to have a spouse who also is a meditator, then that's wonderful. That you can meditate together. That provides a great source of additional encouragement. Oh, I can't miss it. My spouse is already sitting. I better get there. You know. Uh, so now I'm going to touch on some specifics. And none of these things are all important, but there are various factors which do influence our meditation. The place, where do we meditate? Where are we going to meditate? A bus depot or a lonely mountaintop? It makes a difference. The external environment does make a difference. So we prefer to choose a place when possible, which is a place with few distractions, where it's quiet, no music. Some people like to meditate with music. Oh, it helps me focus my mind if I listen to some holy music. That's all right. It's good to listen to holy music and to help relax the mind and focus the mind on God. But when we're actually practicing meditation, it's a discipline of gaining mastery over our minds, leading our minds into that state of one-pointedness. And if we're taking external helps, then we're not doing it. It's something else which is doing it. We had a guy come to our monastery once, and in Trabuco, and he had some kind of tape player or CD player or something, and there were special hmm, it was called hemi sync, which is it supposedly gives little sounds in at certain rhythms in the two ears, and by doing that, it's supposed to change your brain waves into the deep, slow waves of meditation. So it's like you get automatic meditation just by listening to it. And we laughed at and said, "That's not the way to learn to meditate. If it's coming from external, then you're not doing anything. You're actually weakening your mind. You need to put your mind in the state of meditation without the external hemi-sync vibration. All right, it's no harm in trying such a thing, but it's when we actually going to take up seriously meditation, this is just going to be a distraction. Um, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, where to meditate? He used to say, uh, Bone, Kone, Mone. Bone in the forest, Kone in a corner, and Mone in the mind. He meant as much as possible, find a place a little bit alone in the forest. It's not something to show off. You don't want to sit in the middle of the office, meditate. If you find a few minutes to meditate at work, find an empty room or an empty closet where you can meditate, where nobody's watching you. Uh, Away from people. And there is a value for those who can of keeping a separate room just for meditation. Some of us have the fortune to have a big enough apartment or house where we can have a room, or at least a corner of a room where maybe we set up an altar, and then the vibrations develop there. Was a wonderful experience I had very early on in my uh, spiritual seeking when I had started visiting the Vedanta Society, and in my room, I was sharing an apartment with someone. I set up a little altar. I built it myself. I got some wood from the hardware store and nailed it together and painted it, sanded it, all those things. Put some holy pictures on it, and then I would pluck there were happened to be some flowers outside the building, so I'd pluck a few flowers and lay them there and bow down. And one day, after I bowed down, I felt something. I was like, oh, there's a presence here. I was amazed that just by setting up an altar and laying some flowers there, a spiritual presence started to be generated there. I could feel it. That's the thing. We want to feel something. So setting aside a place where you only do meditation, you don't do anything else in that space, whether it's the corner of a room or a whole room itself, that's very helpful. And that's why we also like to come to the Vedanta Society, where there is a presence established here, and there are pujas done here, and daily meditation is done here, and so it's helpful. And meditating in a group, if it's all serious meditators, also can be helpful. I remember there was a kind of not an unhelpful, maybe a nice kind of competition that we felt a little bit. Some of the young guys who were at Trabuco at that time when I was there, that I'd be meditating, I'd start to feel like, okay, I feel like getting up now, but he's still sitting. Okay, I'll sit for a few more minutes. It does work, I'm going to get up and he's still sitting. So that kind of it's not a bad competition when it's something simple like that. Ah. That's, of course, we shouldn't overdo it. That's also true. Now, also, where do we want to meditate in our psychophysical system? And Sri Ramakrishna says again and again, the heart is the best place for meditation. Now, this depends a little bit on the instructions one has received from the guru. And I know some teachers advise meditating between the eyes. And there are books which also suggest that. However, in the Ramakrishna tradition, we typically advise against that. And there's a precedent for that. Swami Virajananda, who was a disciple of Holy Mother and a monastic disciple of Swami Vivekananda, one of the first monks of the order, and one of the longest serving presidents of the order. He was an intense meditator and doing lots and lots of japa. And he started getting these headaches, these terrible headaches. And nothing he did could solve the headaches. And the more he meditated, the worse they were getting. Finally, he went to Holy Mother, asked her what he should do. And she asked him, my child, where are you meditating? And he said, in the head. And she said, oh, my child, that's the last word. That's the last step. Meditate in the heart. And so he went back to meditating in the heart, and the headaches subsided, and he went forward in his spiritual life. So that's where in our system do we meditate, here or here or here, or no? Heart is the nexus where we focus our meditation typically. Time, I've mentioned every day, same time. And it depends on our particular circumstances, but early morning, if we can, is wonderful. Why? It's quiet. The mind is refreshed after a night's sleep. The stresses of the previous day have subsided. We can put the mind, and if we can get up early enough, then other people aren't up yet. If we're living in a family, once the kids get up, it's very hard to meditate. So if we can meditate before the kids get up, then we have some time, quiet time. Or we also need to train the other members of our family. If we're living with other people, train them that, oh, when mom goes to her shrine room, we can't bother her. It's only a short time, but the spouse, everybody knows, when I go for my meditation, they know not to bother me. We can put the mind in a mood. Cultivating a mood is also very helpful for meditation. We read some holy book. That's my personal practice. I like to get up quite early and then read something. I won't go directly to the shrine to meditate. I'll read something and put the mind in a spiritual mood. And we make an intention when we're going to sit for meditation. I'm going to sit for 20 minutes. Don't break that. If I'm going to sit for 20 minutes, I'm going to sit for half an hour, then let me sit for half an hour. I've seen time and again people who come to our temples and they're meditating and their phone goes off and they immediately get up and they're rustling and then they're like, as they're walking out the door, saying hello and disturbing the other people in the temple. Oh, if you come to meditate, come to meditate. Turn off your phone. Okay, meditation means I dedicate this time for meditation. Whatever it may be, whoever is calling, it can wait. It can wait. So that's thing. And then time, how long should we meditate? We always say, not the time, but the intensity, the earnestness and the sincerity. That's fundamental. But if we're meditating for 10 minutes a day, we're not going to go deep. We need more time. So we set a minimum. I would think that a minimum of 20 minutes twice a day would be possibly a starting point. And as we begin to go deeper, we'll want to make more time because we don't like to get up from our meditation. We want to continue it. We start to get that taste for it. And we'll feel really bad if we miss it one day because we're unable to have it. And yet we don't want to increase it too much. Don't increase it by, today I'm meditating, now I'm doing for 20 minutes, tomorrow I'm going to do 45 minutes. It's too much. Increase it slowly. I should mention that one of our Swamis told me, and he tells people, others also, when he started meditating, he said he was going to meditate for 3 minutes. He knew if it was more than that, he wouldn't do it. So rather than the Swami Chidbrahmananda, he tells it freely. He said when he started, now he's a meditator. He's a sincere, a serious meditator. But in those days, when he first started spiritual life, okay, 3 minutes a day. Otherwise, he wasn't going to keep it up. And gradually, slowly increased it by 1 or 2 minutes, week by week, week by week. So it's more important to do it every day than to do it for a long time. So if 3 minutes is all you can start with 3 minutes, but stick with it. Okay, every day after I brush my teeth in the morning, I'm going to sit for 3 minutes. Take at least that sankalpa, form that intention, take that vow. Okay. Now, I want to talk about asana. This is how do we sit? Meditation is typically done seated. There is walking meditation. And Latu Maharaj, the Swami Adbhutananda, Sri Ramakrishna's Bihari disciple, he used to meditate lying under a blanket. But that's not for us. We'll fall asleep if we try to meditate lying down. We meditate typically seated posture. And generally, we don't give much emphasis on this. We just say, okay, sit down, sit with a straight back, and the instruction goes on. But I think that's a mistake, actually. I don't think we discuss this enough. It's important enough that Patanjali, the compiler of the Yoga Sutras, devoted a whole step of his eightfold path. One of the 8 steps is dedicated entirely to this, to asana. That's how important it is. It is important. The Zen Buddhists particularly emphasize posture, and I'm very grateful for my early Zen training. Before I joined the monastery, I was also going to a Zen temple for some time. And asana, it means the position. Of course, nowadays the term is applied to all the different postures in Hatha Yoga, the different Surya Namaskar and standing on your head and whatever, all those things. But here, where asana is basically how do we sit? In how do we place our body when we're going to meditate? And it is said that we are to strive to become established in the asana. What does that mean? It means that we can find it and sit in that, and we can sit without moving for a long time. It means we don't get uncomfortable. When we first start meditation, all of us know that within 5 minutes, we start to get restless. Oh, my shoulder is itching. Oh, my ankle is sore. Oh, my this. Oh, my that. And we shift and we move and we move. And the body and the mind are connected. So when the body is restless like that, mind gets restless. And the mind is restless, so the body gets restless. So it's a little bit of the reverse direction. We learn to make the body completely still and firm in one position. And that helps calm the mind a lot. Stilling the body helps still the mind. Swami Yatishwarananda suggests in his book on meditation and spiritual life that we find 2 positions for sitting, so that we can easily switch from one to the other. And if we're sitting on the floor, that might mean just reversing our legs, or you'll see Swami Sarvadevanandaji, he'll sometimes switch and sit on his knees, like that. He'll usually sit cross-legged, but sometimes he'll sit on his knees for 10 or 15 minutes. So he has those 2 positions that he uses to switch back and forth. So we want our spine to be straight. And best, if we can, is an unsupported back. This is a kind of difficult thing to talk about because so many people have gotten used to sitting in a chair and they lean their back against the backrest and they get comfortable and they meditate. Why is that not good? Well, for some people, they have back problems and they need some support. I acknowledge that. But if we don't have back problems, See, what holding the back straight, unsupported, is an intentional exercise. Leaning against the back of a chair has an element of laziness to it, an element of, okay, I'm just going to completely relax. But in meditation, we don't want to completely relax. There is a constant tension in meditation between, on the one hand, completely relaxing, and on the other hand, maintaining intense focus and awareness. So it's this sort of push and pull between these two. Because if we're just relaxing, we typically fall asleep or just sort of daydream and all of that. So we want a posture that reflects the state of mind we're trying to cultivate, which is awake, aware, intentional. I'm here and I'm trying to make my mind one-pointed. So ideally, every part of how we sit is intentional. From how we hold our hands, whether we hold them in our lap or on our knees or by our heart, we're doing it intentionally. And how our back is. So I would like to suggest that when we use a chair for meditation, and this might be a good example, do a demonstration for when I had some knee problems for a while, and so I was sitting in a chair for a while. I like to sit on the floor. Uh, so I would sit, see, not like this. I sit towards the front half of the chair. And this chair, for me, is a little bit low. So I would typically, this cushion might be too big, but I would put a cushion on the chair. See, now that is great. And my feet are on the floor, and I can keep my back straight. The pelvis, because of the cushion, the pelvis is tilted a little towards forward. That makes it easier to keep the back straight, and the feet are firmly on the floor. Now, for someone who's very short, they might have to put the cushion under their feet so that their legs reach the floor and can firmly. So it all depends on your particular physiognomy. And then the hands can be in the lap. And this is now this would be a posture for meditation. The back is straight, the legs are on the floor, we're grounded. And gradually find that relaxed point. The chest is pulled up, and we're breathing from the diaphragm, right? Not from the ribs, but the diaphragm. So we're breathing in. If we're sitting on the floor in India, most meditators, they sit on the floor, and you'll find without any cushion. And that is a little bit harder. These cushions make it a little easier. Why? They lift the pelvis up and tilt it a little forward. And if we can, it's nice to develop that practice of sitting on the floor. It's a very stable position. When we start to go a little deeper, the mind starts to withdraw from the body a little. So we lose a certain amount of body consciousness. Sitting in a chair, we might feel a little bit, a little unstable, or like, will I fall off the chair? For sitting on the floor, that doesn't happen. And I should add that developing this kind of asana, it takes time. At first, our back is going to hurt if we're used to having that back support. But by doing it regularly, the muscles get stronger. And let me also show you a little bit about what to do with your feet. If we're sitting on the floor, does it show in the video? So nowadays, I sit like this because my knees are getting a little older. But this is not bad. You can see back is straight. But what's really stable, the most stable position, of course, is the Padmasana, the lotus pose, where one leg comes on the opposing thigh, and then this leg also comes on this thigh. I'm not going to do it, or my knees won't be happy. But if you're young, if you have kids, teach your kids to do this. Kids are very flexible. If they do it now, they will thank you later when they can still sit that way. But I can still sit like this. This is called the Burmese posture. Look at this. One knee on the floor, the other knee on the floor, and the pelvis supported by the cushion, 3 points, very stable. Tripod, that's the most stable thing, right? Tripod, camera stand, tripod mic stand, tripod meditation stand. Very stable, very strong. You can feel good. We're connected to the earth, we're grounded, we can sit, and the back remains straight. And this is a wonderful position for meditation. So I will encourage you to experiment with different positions and find the position which ideally we learn to sit in this position, and ideally we can sit like this for half an hour without moving and not feel uncomfortable. I can do that. Mataji can do that. Because we do it every day, we find that position and we don't need to shift. But it takes time. It takes a discipline at first. I want to scratch my nose. Okay, let it go. Just breathe into it. Oh, my ankle started to hurt. Okay, let it be. Relax it. Just breathe into it. And gradually, the mind learns and the body gets used to it. And the muscles in the back get stronger. So it gets used to holding straight for a long time. So this is an important, to my mind, is really an important part of. So I'm thinking. Let me read a little from Vivekananda. Firmness of seat means that you do not feel the body at all. In the ordinary way, you will find that as soon as you sit for a few minutes, all sorts of disturbances come into the body. But when you have got beyond the idea of a concrete body, you will lose all sense of the body. You will feel neither pleasure nor pain. And when you take your body up again, it will feel so rested. When you have succeeded in conquering the body and keeping it firm, your practice will remain firm. But while you are disturbed by the body, your nerves become disturbed and you cannot concentrate the mind. So this is what I wanted to tell you about asana. And I was kind of thinking we could just do a little short guided meditation together. And I just talk a little bit, sort of guide us on feeling the body as still. Are you up for that? Are you too sleepy? Okay, let's try that. Maybe I'll sit on the chair so that the microphone, I can use the microphone. But if you want to sit on the floor, you're also welcome to do that. So let's find that sweet spot. If we can find it, that we get a little comfortable and we feel that we are grounded and our backs are straight, and we can fold our hands in our laps, or we can place them on our knees. We can form the Jnana Mudra, if we like, touching the thumbs and the index fingers, or we can place the hands like Swami Vivekananda places his hands. Look how nicely he has his hands in his lap. This is a photograph of a man in deep meditation, diving deep. So let us chant Om together 3 times. Om. Let us now feel the earth beneath our feet and beneath our seat, and feel that we are connected to the earth. Mother Earth is extremely stable. She does not move. And our roots, we have roots that go deep down into Mother Earth. Let us now bring our attention to our feet and feel that they are relaxed and they don't need to move. They can be completely still. Similarly, let us bring our attention slowly to the ankles. The ankles are also relaxed and comfortable, and they don't need to move. They are perfectly still. Sri Ramakrishna used to hear clicking sounds of his joints locking when he would sit for meditation. So let us bring our attentions up through our legs and our knees and feel that their position is perfectly comfortable and it doesn't need to move at all. It can be completely still. And as we bring our attention up through the thighs and into the pelvis, we understand that they're completely relaxed and yet perfectly still, and they don't need to move, and they are supporting our bodies. We bring our attention from the pelvis up into the spine as we find that perfect balance, not leaning forward, not leaning back. And the spine is supple and yet firm, and relaxed and yet erect. And it doesn't need to move. It becomes perfectly still from the base of the spine all the way to the base of the head. And we feel that beautiful relaxation which does not need to move, passing down into our arms and into our hands. And our arms and hands are perfectly relaxed. And yet they don't need to move. They're perfectly stable. And finally, we bring that same attention to the head. Our head is balanced perfectly on the top of the spine, not leaning back, not leaning forward. And it doesn't need to move. Our jaw relaxes, and it doesn't need to move. And our tongue, it lies motionless, relaxed. This is called sthirasana, fixed posture. The only part of our body that moves is the belly, as the diaphragm pulls air into the lungs and expels it. Every other part of the body is firm, connected with the earth, and doesn't need to move. It's perfectly comfortable as it is. Let us hold this thought, this mood, for a couple of minutes. May find we need to make a slight adjustment if something is not quite aligned. And again, bring that attention of immobility. Our breaths are slow and gentle. As we breathe, we can repeat the sacred mantra Om silently within. On the out breath, let us feel that Om reverberating throughout the whole body. Every molecule, every atom, every cell, reverberating with Om, which brings it perfect peace and motionlessness. Now let us feel in the very center of our being is a light, in the region of the heart, in the very center of our being. And its name is Om. Let us hold on to that light as our body remains motionless. And Om invokes the light. We close by chanting together 3 times. Om. 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 Shanti. Shanti, Shanti. Now you can gently open your eyes and come back to being present in this room with all of us together. So this is, I was hoping to give you a little bit of the experience of if you really pay attention to keeping the body motionless, something happens. At least for some of us, maybe we feel that that motionlessness of the body brings a certain intensity of the mind, a certain withdrawing of the mind, and um, it becomes easier to focus the mind within. It's a way of stilling the mind by stilling the body. It's a powerful practice, which those of us who have instructions from our teacher, we could just add a little bit of this before we go into maybe the specific prayers and rituals, visualizations, which we've been taught to do. This could be added just to a little attention to the asana, to learning to sit in a motionless way. It's a beautiful practice in my mind, for me at least. And we've been going for over an hour. There's a few minutes for questions. If you have any questions or comments, uh, I'll be happy to talk about those.
Cheryl. I think this happens very often, but it has crossed my mind. Are there ever any medical issues for people that sit very still for long periods of time? I'm thinking of stories I've heard about long airplane flights and stuff.
Oh, well, yeah, that's we're not. I mean, that's a long airplane flight means like 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. Most of us are. How long are we meditating? 45 minutes or something. Should be okay. Yes, but if you have any doubts, you can ask your doctor. But typically, the benefits, the health benefits of we're not meditating. Why are we meditating? We're not meditating to get health benefits, but there is a side effect. The research shows that people who meditate have better health, physical health also. The lower blood pressure, um, uh, everything gets harmonized, it gets relaxed. So many of our health problems are caused by stress. And if we can release some of that stress in meditation, we have health benefits. But it's an interesting question. It's interesting to make note of that.
Thank you very much, Swami, for that beautiful demonstration. I'm actually fascinated by the idea of trying to do spiritual practice every moment of life, in every task, and trying to find God in it. So, how do you uh, trying to find God or do spiritual practice while doing some menial labor like cutting vegetables? Not that I do it, or even brushing your teeth.
Right. Well, I do think it's very helpful to have a daily practice of meditation, because then we're cultivating that one-pointedness of mind. But as the more we're able to do that, the more it carries over into the rest of our other activities. Menial tasks are a wonderful time to chant our mantra. If we have received a mantra, or if we haven't and we choose a mantra, it's wonderful because the mind doesn't have, if say we're doing accounts and we're tabulating figures, it's going to be more difficult to chant our mantra. But when we're just cutting vegetables, it's very easy mentally, without any external show, we can chant the mantra. I love cooking and I love chopping and chanting together. Chop and chant.
So,
Yeah.
does the japa become mechanical? Like you're not trying to focus, you're not visualizing, but is it still helpful?
Yeah, it's still helpful. The name is very powerful, but it doesn't necessarily become mechanical as we go on repeating the mantra. And we'll talk more about mantra in a little bit later. But it starts to become awakened, and it may go of itself, or seemingly that our mind, because it's becomes used to chanting, so it automatically will arise. We'll say we always chant our mantra when we're chopping vegetables. Then, because the mind is a creature of habit, we grab the vegetables and start chopping, and naturally the mantra starts arising. The mantra has come with me. So first we do it consciously, and then it becomes a natural, but it's something which brings peace and joy. So it's not just mechanically going on. It actually it's a powerful experience of the blessings of the mantra. 3 questions.
Swami, thanks for being here in the resource. My question is more on the topic of yearning, longing, that talk of yesterday. How do we know that the longing that we have is true calling the divine, or it's the escape from the struggle, responsibilities, and suffering of life? How do I know it's a raw way for everything else?
That's an interesting question. Are we being escapist, or are we trying to be an escapist? Yes, or do we want to face our life fully? Because if we're just trying to escape, then it's not going to be fruitful. It's yeah, one has to be careful to discern that, I suppose. When we long for God, it's because we've already got a little taste of God's grace, and so we've tasted a little joy maybe in meditation, or at a puja function or something, and we taste something that we can't describe, and we know that we want that. So it's a positive, it's a longing for. And if we're trying to escape, then really it's almost like it's a longing against. It's like, I don't want those things. But when we're longing for God, we're longing for, it becomes a positive longing. It becomes a, Sri Ramakrishna used to say there's a monkey vairagya. He said somebody loses their job, or maybe they get jilted by their romantic partner or whatever, and they go, I'm through with it. I'm enough. I'm going to Benares, and I'm going to lead an exclusively spiritual life. And then they go, and nobody hears anything from them for a few months. Then they get a postcard from Benares saying, "Don't worry about me. I'm fine. I have a job here. Everything is all right." So it's a brief. I had a friend before I joined the monastery, a good friend. We were both spiritual seeker, very sincere spiritual seeker. He was following the path of Sufism, and so I embraced the path of monasticism. And then he had a big blow. In romantic life, his girlfriend left him, or whatever it was, and he was very upset and called me for a little consolation. And I kind of jokingly said, "You should come down and live with us." And he said, "Yes, I want to do that. I'm through with this stuff. I'm going to come live with you." And then I realized, no, wait. It's not so fast. It has to come from within. It's not due to the pains of life. It's due to a sincere longing. So I think the same thing applies when longing for God. It's a sincere wanting for more, wanting to love, seeking pure love, seeking pure light, seeking that peace. And so it's not a negative, but a positive. Well, that's you. I mean, let's face it. Life is hard, and we're constantly facing difficulties in life, and to a certain extent, yes, we want to have a smoother life, an easier life. I remember I was buying a suitcase once, the suitcase that I traveled with, that little red suitcase. I wanted it small enough to fit for the European airplanes and all that. And the young man who was in the suitcase store, we were talking a little about, I was explaining I was a monk and all that. And he said, "Is monastic life hard?" And I asked him, "Is life hard?" And he paused for a moment and he said, "Yeah." So life is hard, whether it's monastic life or any other life, whatever, life is hard. And for some people, it seems to be harder than others. So yes, when we become seekers of God, we turn to God and we take refuge in God and we try to throw that whole burden on the Lord, and so that we don't have to carry it. And to the extent that we can do that, yes, we start to taste some peace. It doesn't mean that we don't still have to face those issues. We still have to raise our kids. It may be hard to raise our kids. Maybe we have a kid who's just struggling with, something really tough, like a drug addiction. Then we have to face that. We have to be there for them. We have to help them, try to get them, that doesn't, but if we can start to, if we can surrender everything, then at the same time, we have that divine grace that lifts us up, that carries us through those most difficult times.
Thank you, Swamiji, for today's session. So I have a question. So as beginners in meditation, especially I'm a mother of a toddler and almost all tired all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation is the cure before I was asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So we resolve with practice. Is there a specific way of breathing we should concentrate on?
We'll actually take this specific issue up a little later, because it's one of the main obstacles that all meditators face, is this sleepiness and falling asleep in meditation. So it's good that you're aware of that, and we'll definitely talk more about it. It looks like Mataji is ready to close this session, and we'll have a break of half an hour, and then we'll definitely get to that, because you'll be here for the next hour also. Okay, so we will come to that. Thanks for asking about that. Yes.